The name sounds like fiction. Say it aloud, Dracula, and the mind reaches for fog-draped castles, blood-stained fangs, a caped figure dissolving into the night. For more than a century, that name has belonged to horror, to cinema, to Halloween costumes and theme park rides. But before it was fiction, it was a signature. In the late 1470s, a man signed 2 surviving letters as Dracula. He was not a vampire. He was a prince of Wallachia, a small and blood-soaked principality wedged between the Ottoman Empire and the Kingdom of Hungary. He had been a child hostage, a fugitive, and a warlord. He had killed thousands. He had terrified the most powerful sultan on earth. And within a few years of writing those letters, he would be dead, his head severed, pickled in honey, and sent to Constantinople as a trophy. His name was Vlad III. History would call him Vlad the Impaler. His father's chivalric title gave him another name, Dracula, son of the dragon. Forget the fangs, forget the cape. What follows is worse. The year is 1462, summer. The largest army in the known world is marching north through the Wallachian lowlands. Sultan Mehmed II, the man who conquered Constantinople 9 years earlier, who ended the Byzantine Empire with cannon fire and sheer will, is leading a force estimated between 90,000 and 150,000 men. Even the most conservative count from the Venetian envoy at Buda puts it at 60,000 regulars and 30,000 irregulars. The column carries 120 cannon. It is accompanied by engineers, bridge builders, Islamic clerics, and astrologers. This is the army that broke the walls of the greatest city in Christendom. Its target is not Rome, not Vienna. It is a principality most Europeans could not find on a map, a flat, forested territory roughly the size of Ireland, ruled by a man who has done something no one else dared. Vlad III Dracula has refused to pay tribute. He has killed the Sultan's envoys, and in the winter of 1462, he crossed the frozen Danube into Ottoman Bulgaria and slaughtered over 23,000 people. He reported the numbers to the Hungarian king with the calm precision of an accountant. At Giurgiu, 6,414. At Durastor, 6,840. At Anisala, 1,350. He listed them all. When news reached Europe, the reaction was not horror, it was celebration. On Rhodes, the Knights of St. John held a Thanksgiving Mass. In Venice, diplomats expressed great joy. For a continent terrified by the Ottoman advance, any man willing to fight Mehmed by any means was a hero. Mehmed did not see a hero. He saw a rabid dog on his northern border, and he assembled his army to put it down. The Ottoman column advanced for 7 days and found nothing. Wells poisoned, villages empty, fields scorched, rivers diverted into artificial marshes, roads cratered with hidden pits, and from the tree lines, Wallachian cavalry appeared without warning, struck fast, killed what they could, and vanished. Vlad had no illusions over open battle. His army numbered around 30,000, mostly peasants and shepherds. Against Mehmed's professional janissaries and artillery corps, a pitched fight would be suicide. So he chose a war fought in darkness, in the gaps between what an army expects and what it encounters. Then came the night of June 17th. The Ottoman camp was spread across the plain south of Targovishte. Mehmed had ordered no soldier to leave his tent after dark. The camp was quiet. 3 hours after sunset, the quiet ended.
Vlad led thousands of horsemen out of the forests and into the Ottoman perimeter. They came with torches and bugles, striking from multiple directions. The Wallachians killed by firelight, slashing through tent canvas, cutting down men stumbling out of sleep. Vlad himself led the central thrust toward the Sultan's tent. He had reportedly entered the camp earlier that evening disguised as a Turkish soldier, walking freely through enemy lines to locate Mehmed's position. He almost made it. His cavalry overran the Asian Sipahi contingent and drove deep into the camp's center. But in the chaos, he struck the wrong tent, killing his way into the pavilion of the two Grand Viziers instead of the Sultan. Mehmed's personal guard held. The window closed. The fighting lasted for 4 in the morning. A Wallachian veteran later told a papal legate that the Sultan, shaken and disoriented, ordered the camp abandoned and fled south. He would have continued in this way, the veteran said, had he not been reprimanded by his friends and brought back, almost against his will.
Mehmed regrouped. He was the conqueror. He would not be turned back by a night raid. He marched on Targovishte. He found the city gates open, the streets deserted. Vlad had pulled his forces into the mountains. But outside the walls, along the road, Mehmed's army encountered something no military victory could erase. For half an hour, the Ottoman column marched in silence past a forest of stakes. Thousands of bodies, Ottoman soldiers and Muslim Bulgarian prisoners impaled on wooden stakes of varying height, driven into the ground in rows like an orchard of the dead. Blackened, swollen, skeletal. The stench in the summer heat was beyond description. At the top of the highest stake was the corpse of Hamza Pasha, the Ottoman commander Vlad had captured months earlier, placed above all others to signify his rank, even in death. The Greek historian Chalkokondyles recorded the Sultan's reaction. Mehmed, who had watched Constantinople burn, who was not a man easily disturbed by violence, looked at the field of stakes and said, "It is not possible to deprive of his country a man who had done such great deeds, who had such a diabolical understanding of how to govern his realm and his people." The Sultan turned his army south. He would not stay in Wallachia. Was Vlad the Impaler a monster? The German pamphlets of the 1480s, among the first printed bestsellers in history, said yes. A tyrant who dined among the dying, who nailed turbans to ambassadors' skulls, who burned beggars alive after inviting them to a feast. Or was he a hero? In Romania, then and now, the answer leans the other way. He stood against the Ottoman Empire when no one else dared. He fought for the independence of a small nation trapped between superpowers. If his methods were brutal, so was the world he lived in. Both answers are too clean. The truth lives in the space between. In the biography of a boy traded as a hostage at 11, who watched his father and brother murdered, who learned the technology of cruelty in the courts of his captors, and who returned to a throne that could only be held by making everyone afraid. This is the story of that boy, that prince, and that name. The name that started as a chivalric honor became a synonym for terror and ended as the most famous monster in fiction. To understand him, we have to go back before the stakes and the blood, back to a land between empires where survival was the only ideology and loyalty was the most dangerous lie a man could tell. To be born in Wallachia in the 15th century was to be born on a fault line. The Danube River marked the southern boundary.
the Carpathians marked the north. Between them lay a stretch of lowland forest and open plain, rich enough to farm, flat enough to invade, and cursed by geography to be desired by everyone and protected by no one. Hungary wanted a loyal buffer state on its southern flank, a principality that would bleed so that Budapest and Vienna would not have to. The Ottoman Empire wanted the same thing in reverse, a compliant vassal that paid tribute, supplied boys for the Janissary Corps, and kept the Danube crossings open. Every Wallachian voivode faced the impossible arithmetic. Ally with one, and the other would send an army to replace you. The result was carnage dressed as politics. Between 1418 and 1481, Wallachia saw 14 different rulers, several of them more than once. The average reign lasted 4 years, some lasted weeks. Behind every coup stood the boyars, Wallachia's landed aristocracy. They owned the land, commanded local levies, controlled the princely council, and claimed the right to elect and remove the voivode. In practice, every ruler was a temporary occupant of a chair that someone else was always sharpening a knife for. Loyalty was not a principle. It was a bet. This was the system that produced Vlad Dracula, and this was the system he would one day try to destroy. In 1431, the Holy Roman Emperor Sigismund inducted Vlad's father into the Order of the Dragon, a crusading fraternity dedicated to defending Christendom against the Ottomans. From that emblem, Vlad's father took his name, Dracul, the dragon. His son would be Dracula, son of the dragon. The name signaled that Vlad II was Europe's man on the frontier, but the line was not holdable. He seized the Wallachian throne in 1436, and within 2 years was paying tribute to the Ottoman Sultan. The crusading knight had done the math and concluded that defiance meant death. In 1442, the Sultan summoned Vlad II to prove his loyalty. He went, and his 2 younger sons went with him. Vlad II was released after renewing his oath. His sons were not. Vlad, roughly 11, and his brother Radu, perhaps 7, were taken to the fortress of Erigos as hostages. If their fathers stayed loyal, they lived. If he wavered, they died. For young Vlad, captivity was also education. He learned Turkish, Ottoman court protocol, and military tactics. He first saw human beings mounted on sharpened stakes, not in Wallachia, but in the land of his captors. Impalement was standard Ottoman practice, a discretionary punishment in wartime. The boy filed it away. His brother Radu adapted differently. Where Vlad grew sullen and defiant, Ottoman sources describe him as difficult and frequently punished, Radu flourished, becoming a favorite at the Sultan's court. The same captivity that hardened Vlad into a weapon softened Radu into a tool the Ottomans would later use against his brother. In 1447, John Hunyadi, regent governor of Hungary, invaded Wallachia. Vlad's father was killed. His eldest brother Mircea was seized by the boyars of Târgoviște, his eyes burned out with hot irons, and buried alive. 16-year-old Vlad, still a hostage, received the news in the Ottoman court. The lessons were simple and permanent. Trust no ally, trust no noble. The only reliable instrument of power is fear. The Ottomans released him immediately. A dead father's hostage has no leverage, but a dead father's heir has potential. They gave Vlad a small force to claim Wallachia in October 1448. He seized the throne and held it for 2 months before being driven out by a rival. For 8 years he lived in exile, moving between Ottoman, Moldavian, and Hungarian courts, watching, waiting, learning. When his protector's political landscape shifted in 1456, Vlad saw his opening. He invaded Wallachia with Hungarian backing, found the sitting voivode, and killed him personally. Vlad III Dracula sat on the throne for the second time. He was 25. He had been a hostage, an orphan, a fugitive, and a beggar at the courts of men who had murdered his family. He had been betrayed by every institution the medieval world offered. Now he had power. The first thing he did was begin killing boyars. The purge was immediate. Boyars who had participated in his father's murder or whom Vlad merely suspected were arrested, impaled, or marched to mountain fortresses and worked to death. The Byzantine chronicler Chalcondyles wrote that Vlad quickly effected a great change and utterly revolutionized the affairs of Wallachia by seizing the wealth of his victims and distributing it to his followers. The old aristocracy was being dismantled. In its place, Vlad built a centralized state held together not by feudal loyalty, but by terror. The boyars had taught him that loyalty debased overnight. Fear held its value better. But the stakes were not merely instruments of sadism, they were a language. To the boyars, the age of king-making is over. To the Ottomans, this vassal will cost you more than he is worth. To the Transylvanian Saxon merchants who funded rival claimants, your money will not protect you here. And to the peasants, later Romanian tradition holds that a golden cup was left at a public fountain under Vlad's rule, and no one dared steal it. Brutal, terrifying, non-negotiable order. In a land where the previous price of disorder had been invasion, civil war, and famine, some considered it a bargain. This was the throne Vlad sat on when the Ottoman Sultan came calling. And when Mehmed II demanded submission, Vlad gave him an answer that would echo across 5 centuries. He sent the Sultan's envoys back with their turbans nailed to their skulls. Picture a boy of 11 standing in a courtyard he does not recognize. The walls are higher than anything in Wallachia. Smooth Ottoman stonework, built to last centuries. The air smells of dust and unfamiliar spices. Somewhere beyond the walls, a muezzin calls the faithful to prayer, the sound rising and falling in a language the boy does not yet understand. Beside him stands his younger brother, perhaps 7 years old, gripping his sleeve. No one is coming to take them home. The fortress of Egrigos was not a dungeon. It was not a torture chamber. It was something more sophisticated, a holding facility for political assets. The Ottoman Empire maintained an extensive system of hostage-keeping, housing the sons of vassal rulers in conditions that ranged from comfortable to claustrophobic, depending on how useful their fathers remained. A cooperative father meant tutors, riding lessons, decent food. A rebellious father meant darker rooms and shorter meals. A dead father meant the hostage was either released, recycled as a puppet ruler, or quietly eliminated. Vlad and Radu existed in this liminal space for roughly 5 years. The historical record of their daily experience is thin. No letters survive from the boys themselves, and Ottoman chroniclers had little reason to document the moods of 2 minor Wallachian princes. But the outlines can be reconstructed from what came after. Vlad learned Turkish fluently. He studied the Quran, not as a convert, but as an observer, understanding that knowledge of your captor's beliefs is a form of armor. He watched Ottoman military drills, absorbing the discipline of the Janissary Corps, the logistics of moving large armies, the precise hierarchy of command that made the Sultan's forces the most effective fighting machine in the known world. And he watched punishments. The Ottoman Empire did not hide its justice. Executions were public, deliberate, and varied, designed not merely to kill but to communicate. Impalement was reserved for serious offenses: treason, rebellion, wartime defiance. The method was not quick. A sharpened wooden stake, oiled to reduce friction, was inserted into the body, and the victim was hoisted upright. Gravity did the rest, sometimes over the course of hours or days. The dying were displayed along roads, at city gates, at crossings, wherever the message needed to be read. An 11-year-old watching this would understand two things. First, that power speaks loudest through the body. Second, that the technology of fear is transferable. Radu understood something different. Where Vlad resisted, Radu adapted. Ottoman sources portray the younger brother as charming, intelligent, and socially gifted, qualities that made him valuable at court. He converted to Islam, or at least performed conversion convincingly enough to satisfy his hosts. He became close to the young prince Mehmed, the future Mehmed II, conqueror of Constantinople, and moved through the Sultan's inner circle with an ease that his older brother never achieved and probably never wanted. The divergence between the two brothers is one of the most revealing details in the entire story. Same father, same captivity, same trauma of separation. But one boy calcified into defiance, and the other dissolved into accommodation. Radu's path was arguably the smarter survival strategy. He would eventually be installed as voivode of Wallachia by the Ottomans, ruling comfortably as a loyal vassal. Vlad's path led to a throne built on corpses and a death in battle at 45.
Neither brother chose wrong in any absolute sense. They chose differently, and the difference was shaped by something deeper than calculation, by temperament, by pride, by whatever unnamed thing inside a person decides whether captivity produces submission or rage. In Vlad, it produced rage. The news arrived sometime in late 1447. The details would have come in fragments, through merchants, through Ottoman intelligence, through the slow and unreliable channels that connected the Sultan's court to the Wallachian frontier. His father was dead, killed on the orders of Jan Hunyadi, the Hungarian regent who was supposed to be an ally of the Christian cause, the same cause the Order of the Dragon had been created to serve. Vlad II Dracula had tried to walk the line between Hungary and the Ottoman Empire, and the line had cut him in half. His brother Mircea was dead too, and the manner of his death was worse than their father's. The boyars of Târgoviște, the aristocrats who had sworn oaths of loyalty, who had sat at Mircea's table, who had kissed his ring, had seized the young prince, burned out his eyes with heated iron stakes, and buried him alive outside the city walls. Vlad was 16 years old. He was a hostage in a foreign empire, orphaned by one supposed ally and mutilated by another. The two pillars of Wallachian political life, foreign protection and aristocratic support, had each independently destroyed a member of his family. The lesson did not require interpretation. What followed was 8 years of education by displacement. The Ottomans released Vlad in 1448 and gave him a small cavalry force to take the Wallachian throne, a low-cost gamble on the potential puppet. Vlad seized power in October and lost it by December. Vladislav II, backed by the Hungarians, returned and drove him out. Vlad fled first to Ottoman territory, then north to Moldavia, where his relative Bogdan I briefly sheltered him.
When Bogdan was assassinated in 1451, politics in Moldavia were only marginally less lethal than in Wallachia. Vlad fled again, this time to Transylvania, and eventually into the orbit of the very Hungarian establishment that had killed his father. This is the part of the story that reveals Vlad's most dangerous quality: patience. A less disciplined man would have sought immediate revenge against Hunyadi's faction. Vlad did the opposite. He made himself useful. He studied Hunyadi's methods, how the Hungarian strongman wielded military force and political alliances, how he rewarded loyalty and punished defection with equal precision. Vlad was not forgiving his father's killers, he was learning from them. When Hunyadi died in August 1456, the chessboard shifted. Vladislav II lost his protector. Vlad moved immediately, invading Wallachia with Hungarian support and killing Vladislav in personal combat. He was 25. He had been a hostage, a refugee, a beggar at enemy courts, and a student of every form of betrayal the 15th century could teach him. Now he sat on the Wallachian throne for the second time, and he intended it to be the last time anyone tried to take it from him. The Easter feast is one of the most famous episodes in Vlad's reign, though its details shift depending on the source. The German pamphlets, hostile to Vlad and written partly as propaganda, describe it in the most extreme terms. The core of the story, stripped to its most defensible outline, is this. Early in his second reign, Vlad invited a large number of boyars to a feast at Târgoviște. At some point during or after the meal, he had them arrested. The older boyars, those he held directly responsible for his father's and brother's murders, were impaled on the spot. The younger ones and their families were marched north to the ruins of a fortress above the Argeș River and forced into hard labor, building what would become known as Poianari Castle, Vlad's mountain stronghold, inaccessible and defensible in ways that Târgoviște was not. Recent scholarship suggests the numbers were inflated. Where the pamphlets claim 500 boyars were killed at the feast, harder evidence points to perhaps 40 to 50. But the structural effect was real. In a single stroke, Vlad decapitated the class that had controlled Wallachian politics for generations. He replaced them with men who owed their positions entirely to him. Men with no independent power base, no inherited lands, no tradition of king-making. The princely council records from Vlad's reign show the evidence clearly. Of all the boyars who served on the council between 1457 and 1461, only 2 held their positions continuously. Everyone else was new. The entire political class had been rotated out, by death, by exile, or by terror. Vlad had not merely punished his enemies, he had rewritten the operating system of his country.
The instrument of that rewriting was the stake, and the stake was everywhere. German merchants from Brasov and Sibiu who had funded Vlad's rivals were raided, captured, and impaled in Wallachia. A report of 41 Saxon merchants executed in 1459 was inflated to 600 in later accounts, but even the real number sent a clear message to the Transylvanian trading cities. Commercial neutrality was no longer an option. Criminals were impaled. Liars were impaled. A woman whose husband's shirt was poorly mended was, according to the German pamphlets, impaled for laziness, though this story likely belongs more to propaganda than to history. What is documented is that Vlad used impalement not randomly, but systematically.
calibrating the visibility and scale of each execution to the audience he intended to reach. The stakes at Târgoviște were positioned where visitors, merchants, and foreign envoys would see them first. Vlad reportedly ate meals outdoors within view of the dying. Whether this detail is literal truth or dramatic embellishment, its function in the narrative is clear. It told every observer that this ruler was not performing cruelty reluctantly or apologetically. He was comfortable with it. He owned it. And if you were sitting across from him at a negotiation, that knowledge changed the equation. By 1460, Wallachia was quiet. The boyars were broken. The Saxon merchants were paying what Vlad demanded. Internal crime, according to both sympathetic and hostile sources, had dropped dramatically. The golden cup sat untouched at the fountain. The peace was real. The method was monstrous, and Vlad was about to aim it at the most powerful empire on earth.